They didn't get the gold jackets. They didn't get the headlines. But they built the NFL you watch today. One had more interceptions than Deion. One outran LaDainian Tomlinson. One beat Tom Brady twice and still faded into silence. They were legends, just not the kind the league wants you to remember. This isn't a tribute. It's an exposé. A brutal look at how greatness gets buried and why you've never even heard of some of the best to ever play the game. Without them, football would not be what it is today. This is not a highlight reel. It's a graveyard. But the NFL doesn't forget stars. It forgets the quiet ones, the grinders, the workhorses. In this video, we bring them back. The men who changed games, saved seasons, and anchored locker rooms without ever demanding the spotlight. While the media crowned quarterbacks and showboating receivers, these legends worked in silence. They didn't dance after touchdowns. They didn't chase cameras. They chased excellence and got lost in the noise. This league is built on moments. One-handed catches, pick sixes, game-winning drives. But what about the players whose greatness wasn't flashy but relentless? What about the linebacker who never missed a start in 17 seasons? The wide receiver who led the league in every major stat and then vanished from history? Or the quarterback who beat Tom Brady not once, but twice, and still got forgotten? This isn't just a story about being overlooked. It's a warning, because if these players could be erased from memory, anyone could. These are the names the league buried, the legends who never got their due. And today, for the first time in far too long, they're getting it. 1. London Fletcher, the human tackle machine. You've heard of Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher, Patrick Willis. But London Fletcher? He was better than all of them at one thing: showing up and getting the damn job done. Imagine starting 256 straight games in the most physically brutal position in football and still being ignored. London Fletcher wasn't just durable, he was elite. Over 2,000 tackles, 4 Pro Bowls, a Super Bowl ring. He outperformed nearly every linebacker of his era, including some enshrined in Canton. But Fletcher never got the magazine covers. He didn't have the loud persona. And maybe that's why the league never truly saw him, even when he was standing right in front of them. His crime? Playing for small market teams. Being consistently great in a league that rewards brief bursts of glory. And now, his name barely shows up in the conversation, despite being one of the greatest defensive leaders the NFL has ever seen. 2. Fred Taylor, forgotten among the flash. When you think of dominant running backs from the 2000s, you hear names like Tomlinson, Peterson, and Shaun Alexander. But Fred Taylor, he had more rushing yards than all but a handful of backs in NFL history. Nearly 12,000 yards. More than Earl Campbell, Jim Taylor, Larry Csonka, and even O.J. Simpson. He was a nightmare in cleats. When healthy, he could change a game with a single cut. But he played in Jacksonville, where greatness echoes in silence. No national spotlight, no playoff push, and injuries gave critics an easy excuse. Still, his stats don't lie. He averaged more yards per carry than Emmitt Smith and LaDainian Tomlinson. But guess what? He's never even been a Hall of Fame finalist. If he had worn a Cowboys jersey, he'd have a statue by now. 3. Ken Riley, the Hall of Fame tragedy. 65 interceptions. Still waiting. Ken Riley intercepted 65 interceptions. It's not a typo in his NFL career. More than Ed Reed, more than Charles Woodson, more than Deion Sanders. Only 5 players in history have more. But Riley didn't play cornerback the right way, meaning he didn't talk, didn't dance, didn't self-promote. He just studied film, read quarterbacks, and took the ball away. He spent his entire 15-year career with the Bengals, a franchise that never sniffed the spotlight during his era. He waited over 40 years to be recognized. He died in 2020. He finally got inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2023, 3 years after he died. A cautionary tale of how long football makes some men wait, and how even legends can be forgotten before they're remembered. No gold jacket ceremony, no speech, no moment of closure, just silence. For one of the greatest ball hawks the NFL has ever seen. 4. Ken Anderson. The quarterback history erased. Ken Anderson led the league in passer rating 4 times. He won the MVP in 1981. He threw for 25,000 yards in a brutal pre-pass interference era where quarterbacks got punished, not protected. In Super Bowl 16, he outplayed Montana, but lost the game. And that was enough for history to write him off. He had the numbers, the leadership, the longevity, but he didn't have a ring. And in a league obsessed with hardware, his career became a footnote instead of a feature. The irony? Many of today's pass-heavy offenses are modeled after schemes Anderson was executing decades ago. He was ahead of his time, and that's exactly why time left him behind. 5th, Otis Taylor, a playmaker. Buried by time before Calvin Johnson, before Julio Jones, there was Otis Taylor. Tall, fast, impossible to cover. Otis Taylor was electric. At 6 feet 3 inches with Olympic caliber speed, he was the prototype before the prototype existed. His 46-yard touchdown sealed Super Bowl 4. For years, he torched secondaries while the league was still figuring out how to cover tall, fast receivers. He was doing things in the late 60s that receivers wouldn't master for decades. But you won't find him in the Hall, because he played before social media, before SportsCenter, before people knew how to process a wide receiver who looked like a linebacker and ran like a sprinter. He was 20 years ahead of the game and 50 years behind in recognition. And by the time the media caught up, Otis Taylor was out of the league and out of memory. He changed the game and got nothing in return. 6. Steve Tasker, the specialist who broke the game. How do you become one of the most feared men on the field without ever being a starter? Steve Tasker redefined special teams. 7 Pro Bowls. Dominant gunner. Game changer. He turned kickoffs and punts into strategic weapons, and yet he's not in the Hall of Fame. Why? Because he didn't play offense or defense full-time. He was a specialist, but ask coaches from his era, and they'll tell you he was a difference maker. The kind of player who flipped field position, turned momentum, and quietly won games. Steve Tasker played a role so perfectly that the NFL never knew how to measure it, and so they erased it. 7. Sterling Sharpe. Greatness. Cut short. Recognition delayed. Before Shannon Sharpe became a Hall of Famer and a TV personality, his older brother Sterling was on track to be the greatest wide receiver of his era. Sterling was already a legend in the making. In just 7 seasons, he led the league in receptions 3 times. From 1989 to 1994, 108 catches, 1,461 yards, 13 touchdowns. Then, a neck injury ended it all. Just like that. No long goodbye, no farewell tour. 1 snap, and he was gone. The Hall of Fame never called. Maybe because his career was short. But make no mistake, Sterling Sharpe, at his peak, was uncoverable. But history only remembers longevity. No impact. And Sterling Sharpe paid the price of an early exit with a lifetime of being ignored. Before we wrap this up, let's be clear. These aren't just football stories. These are warnings. In the NFL, greatness doesn't guarantee glory. If you don't fit the narrative, if you don't play in the right city, if your greatness is quiet, the league forgets you. The fans forget you. Even history forgets you. These players gave everything to the game, and the game barely whispered their names. If their stories moved you, don't let them disappear again. Like this video, so their legacy lives on. Drop a comment and tell us who you think is the most underrated player of all time. And if you want more stories the league tried to bury, subscribe, because we're just getting started.